and looking at this screen. Okay, so this is the basic homepage of the TargetX Student Success Center. And when we were implementing and designing this and customizing it, we really thought of this as being analogous to what you see currently in Advisor Link. So we're hopeful that all of the information that gets pulled into Advisor Link through Banner will ultimately end up in the Student Success Center. On the homepage here at the top, you have these three boxes. You have one for my tasks, you have one for my students, and then you have one for my appointments. I'll start with my appointments because we're not using it. This is the appointment system that's native to the TargetX system. But because we're currently using Calendly and we're so embedded in the Calendly system and it works very well, we don't have any plans right now to upset that apple cart. It requires students to have to log into the system, and there's a lot of extra steps involved to get students to use the TargetX appointment system. Calendly, as you know, very easy. You just click on it, pick a time and a name, and you're good to go.
Puts all of your information from your calendar on it.
Correct, yes, and we have to integrate it with your Outlook calendar, and then all of a sudden, all of your standard meetings show up on your Salesforce calendar. It just creates a big mess. So that's why this is blank, and this will be blank for the near future or far future. On the left where it says my tasks, obviously I'm a bad employee. I have 461 not started tasks. This is because my user is just used in a lot of forms that are submitted. So your numbers are not going to look like mine just because my account does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. However, I do have 2 in progress and 1 overdue. So these are tasks that basically they are essentially like little reminders that you have something that you need to do. So within the Student Success Center, you can assign tasks to yourself as if it's like follow up with a student or check in or do this or do that. You can set yourself with reminders and due dates, and then you can keep track of this. And then they will show up here. I have 43,000 tasks. Yours will not be nearly so unmanageable. And when you start using them, because a lot of these are automatically generated for me, but to begin with, you'll probably be manually making a lot of tasks until we discover the automation use cases to set up tasks automatically for student success team members. So most of you should have probably 0 tasks here. The tasks are filterable and searchable, so you'll be able to create different task types and categories, and you'll be able to search on those, as well as the status, whether they're in progress or overdue, or you're waiting on someone else. There's a lot of different classifications of tasks that go in the system. And then the real meat of the system here is in the center box, which is my students. So who here has numbers aside from 0? Raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. Fantastic. All right. So what that means is we've assigned you as the primary success team member for that student. What that means is Sarah has assigned you as the student's primary advisor in Banner. The system has seen that, it's brought that information up from Banner and assigned you basically as the success team member. So you can think of the primary advisor in Banner as the primary success team member in Salesforce. If other advisors are assigned to the student but not marked as primary in Banner, they'll be pulled in as other success team members. So anyone that's assigned in Banner will also be assigned to the student in the Salesforce TargetX environment. So if you have non-zero numbers here in my students, it means that you've been assigned as the primary success team member for that particular list of students. So I have 0, but I'll click, if I click view here. So mine says 0 of 0. If you click it, if you have students assigned to you, they'll show up in a list here.
Feel free to follow along.
Yes, absolutely. If you don't have anyone, you'll get a screen that looks like this, and it'll say no matching results. Try searching within all students. You can click the all students link, or you've got a little selector up here. You can toggle between my students and all. If you click all, that's what you'll get. So now you'll see the records for all of the students in Salesforce that we've designated as should be visible within the Student Success Center, which typically means that they have some sort of course registration history or student activity that we've detected, and therefore we've assigned them to be visible within the Success Center. When you're looking at this list view, you have a search function here. So if you hover this little magnifying glass, you'll get a search here. Using this, you can search on basically any information that we have on the student. You can search by name, phone number, email, banner ID, social security, like any of that stuff. If we have it and it exists on the student record within Salesforce, you should be able to use this search function to find it. So if I
Alright.
just look for myself, oh, yes,
So we have several people that when they click on all, nothing is showing up.
okay.
I'll go fix that. That's.
If you, if you're looking at the Success Center and it says, so like here, I've searched for myself, it shows 2 of 2. If you click all and it says like 0 out of nothing, like there's no second number, it means that there's a permissions issue that we just need to fix on your account before you can see the students. We thought we assigned that permission set to all the users, but I guess we must have missed something. So I will click if, so here we have 3 columns here that you see in the list view, one for academic engagement and financial. Those are using student success scores that we aren't currently configuring in the system. We're not planning on using that system. Unfortunately, these 3 are here by default, where we have to check with the vendor because it's taking up valuable real estate that we could configure this with other heads up information with. But you'll see over here, cumulative GPA, earned credits, current academic status. And we've also added a columns over here for visions cohort. So if they have the visions cohort code in Banner, it will pull up here and it will say that. So from here, if I can click on if I click on these little 3 dots at the end of the row, I have a drop-down menu for different actions I can do to the student, but mostly you'll want to do those after you've drilled into the student record. So to click in and see more of the student information, I just need to go to the click over here on the name. And then I click that and it'll bring up my personal activity history and timeline within the Student Success Center. So again, just from top to bottom here. So here's the student, here's my activity. So this is analogous to essentially like the advisor link notes. Anytime anyone makes an alert or a note or a hold comes in for the student, or anything along those lines, it will show up here. So I've got a bunch of these from today. For example, Sonia created one for me.
Even on the screen, it goes small.
Yes. So every one of these so it has a little circle here, this with the warning sign. So this is an alert. It's got the award ribbon. This one is a kudo that was given to me. And as I keep scrolling down, so this is just an activity record. This is a note that someone put on my record. Another alert. I'm very alarmed. A hold. When we say hold in the Student Success Center, these are being pulled up from Banner. So there is no hold being put on the student in the Success Center. And a hold on a student in the Success Center doesn't actually do anything to their record. So this is for reference purposes only. We won't be editing or creating holds within the Success Center. It's just for reference purposes. And here we have a referral where someone came in and gave me a referral to another service center or another staff member, and then an alert and so on. So all of the most recent activity floats to the top and everything else will sink towards the bottom. So if I want to switch away from this view, I have access to some more information. So I have a down arrow here next to the activities. So if I go to academic, then I can see my course history at Mount Wachusett. So I don't know why I have summer 24 here because I have no courses there. It shouldn't be there. But so I've got my spring 22 courses here. And then some fall 21 and fall 2019. I was admitted for those terms, but I didn't take any classes. So we're working on enhancing this a little bit. Right now, it just gives you the facilitator and the grades and such. But this will allow you to at least get a brief overview of the student's course history at Mount Wachusett. This will include early college dual enrollment courses. It will include non-credit courses. So anything that they've ever taken in their entire history should be here on this list. The most recent stuff floats to the top, the older stuff sinks to the bottom. You have some filter options here. If you just want current term or other terms, you can click this row of 3 sliders here. And anytime you see this icon, this is a filter icon. So it lets you pare down the results as you need them. We don't have we're not rolling out engagement at the moment. This is activities and interest surveys within the TargetX system, which we're not going to be implementing soon. And then it would count the appointment. This is where the TargetX appointment scheduler comes into play, because if we were using that, it would load up right into this engagement section. The Calendly information does not. So that's one of the drawbacks of not using the built-in appointment scheduler system, that we don't get to keep track of the appointments directly within the Student Success Center. So essentially, you'll have to just make your notes within the Success Center to indicate that you've met with a student, similar to how you would an advisor link now anyway, as opposed to going to a specific appointment and making notes on that appointment. Yes. Okay. There's information on financial, but right now this financial section, it basically shows financial holds. So if there's any holds that are put on from SFS with the proper, depending on the code that it's put in Banner, they will show up here on this financial hold list. And then I have an option to see the success team. So Sonia is my primary success team member. So anyone that's assigned to the student as a success team member will show up here, and the primary team member gets a blue check mark, much to Elon Musk's chagrin. So those are the options you have here. Probably the most important ones are going to be the activity and the academic tab. So I'm going to go back to activity, and I'm going to say, okay, let's say I just had an advising appointment with a student, I've just met with them, and now I need to record that interaction. From here, what I would do is I would click this orange plus, and then it's going to give me a list of options of advising records that I can add on to the student. I can give them an alert, a note, referral, a set of action plan items, which basically are tasks that we assign to the student. And then once we see that they've completed them, we can mark them as complete. There's accolades and kudos. We wouldn't be putting holds on students. There's also communications, and then there's tasks. So an action plan is like a series of tasks. So let's say I met with myself here, and I'm going to put a note on my record. So if I'm looking at the student in the Success Center, it'll automatically set me as the related student for the note. I can pick a category for this. So we have like check-ins and all of this, and this is all customizable. So if there's more categories or reasons that we need to better classify the nature of the meeting with the student, we can just add them in here. We're not limited to just this list. So I'll do responding to student outreach, sure. And then from here I can do type. So this type is kind of like modality. So it's like why. Okay. And then down here where it says notes, this is the note for my meeting. Great. Right here. I can make the note private, but by design, we're not really going to do that because we want all of this to be public. It's a feature we have, but we don't really have a use case for it. So by default, everything will be public, and we will keep that public. And then there's this option here for close. So you wouldn't really close a note. There's no reason to close a note, but if this was a task or a to-do or a referral, or you're checking up on someone, then you would mark that as closed once the student has taken the action that we've asked them to do. So if we referred them to collaborative learning or something, and then we see that they went there and the student had an open task or an open referral that we sent them to go there, we could then go back to the student record, mark that as closed, and then we would know, everyone would know that the student did what we asked them to do in that case. So as I save this here, as I save the note, it's going to bring up this box, and then I have email options here. If I click that, eventually, it's a little slow when you click email options. Just make sure you click it once and just wait. I promise you it will come up. I can notify the staff and I can notify the student with different templates. You probably wouldn't do that for like a meeting note because the student was there, they know where they were there. But for an alert or something along those lines, and you want to send an email to the student that an alert was created for them, you would do this as you would notify the student through the email options, and these are the baseline templates of emails that we've built so far. We're still working on customizing those, but you can pick a template like that, and then if I click send, it'll email the student with the information about this alert that's built into this template. And that would go to their student email, which is on their contact record. So I'm not going to do that. And then if I wanted to do a new note, I can do that right there, or I can just X out of that and go back. And now when my activity record refreshes, now that note is at the very top here. So responding to student outreach created by me at this exact date and time. If I need to see the details of it here, I can click this arrow, and now I'm looking directly at that note meeting record. There's the note. So the only issue here is that in order to see the actual content of this, it's not here on this view. So if you want to see the note itself, you have to click the little arrow to drill in, and then you'll be able to see what the staff member actually put there in the notes. So that's kind of it for what we've got on the left-hand side here. And then over here on the right, this is what's called the student profile. So these are all data points that we've brought into the student's contact record within Salesforce. And we just configure this to display that information here. So if the information exists on the student contact record, it will display here. If it does not exist, it won't. So for example, if I didn't have a high school GPA listed on my record, this would not say high school GPA empty. It would just not be there at all. So same as any of these. So last academic status, that's pulling up from the student's registration history. This is the current cohort string that's pulling in from SGA, SADD. Same thing with the attribute string here. So this is all the same stuff that you would see if you went to that student's record in Banner. In addition, it's got some additional information, not 101 completion date, first generation information. Have I applied divisions? What's my visions cohort? What's my current major? My MWCC GPA. The last time I went to the Learning Success Center, if I have a selective program aspiration, if I'm in allied health and I actually want to get into nursing, and I've told Mount Wachusett that I want to get into nursing, that would be there like that. So we have a lot of options for what we can bring in here, as long as we're able to get that information onto the student's overall contact record. And we'll take a look at that towards the end of this. As well, at the top here, we have info and activity. If I go to activity, I can see just kind of like a summation here. I currently have 5 alerts, 1 hold, 1 referral, and 4 kudos. That doesn't tell me if they're open or not. It just says overall, this is how many of these of each type that are associated with myself. I have 7 action plan items, which are basically to-dos that we would assign to a student. We've envisioned that maybe as like a first semester registration to-do list. So it's like, once we see that you've registered and it's your first semester, we'll assign you a bunch of action plan items, like meet with your advisor, go to career services, do all this, to increase engagement with the college. So that's all kind of still in development, but that's what that means. I also have 2 notes, and I have no private notes. I can add items directly from here. So if I wanted to add a note, I could just click activity, scroll down, add new note, instead of going through the plus and do advising note. It does the same thing regardless of which we do. And I just realized I actually skipped over a bunch of this. Let me go back here. So if you click the plus, in addition to the advising notes, you've got alerts. So if I do an alert, again, I'm looking at the student. I have different categories of alerts I can put in. Again, all of these lists are customizable depending on what our needs are. And then we have these different types of alerts that we can put in. So it's like missing assignments, and it's not doing homework. Like that. So these so an alert is a little different. It has notes that you would put in when you first create the alert, but then there's also closing notes, and you would edit this section after the student has done what you've asked them to do in that alert. So you would have to keep up on the student, make sure that they did, if you refer them to Learning Center or something along those lines. After the fact, what you would do is you would edit this and switch it to close, and I'll show you that. And then you can set a priority if you want. We don't have a use case set up for this, but it is an option that we have. It's a feature that we have access to. For now, I'm just going to set this as a medium priority alert. So I'm going to click save on that. And the alert should automatically notify my success team member. So Sonia should have gotten an email that an alert was created for me as one of her primary advisees. So from here, I can either do a new alert or I can create a follow-up. So this is a follow-up task that would be assigned to me as the staff member currently logged in. So I would be assigning this task as a to-do reminder for myself. Related to this student, it's very weird because I'm the same person. This would not be the same. Your name would be up here and the student's name would be here. And then again, you could set the type. You could do a call, a meeting, or something else. We can customize that and you can say follow up on doing the homework. And then I'm going to do that in a week. Next Friday, I'm going to double check this and see if the student's doing their homework now. I'm going to say that this is in progress. I'm going to give it normal and then follow up with Eric Johnson. And then this note will come in automatically as the follow-up task. And this references the specific alert that was assigned to that student. So then I can just do save on that. And very briefly, I'll show you what that did actually. If I click down here in the bottom left where it says dashboard, this will take me back to that home page with the 3 boxes. Now I have 3 in progress tasks because I've assigned a new task for myself to check in on myself and make sure I'm doing my homework next Friday. So that's how these various actions kind of all interact with each other. So if I had set that progress to not started, it would show up here, but because I set it to in progress, it would be here. Once I go beyond the due date of that task and the task is still open, then it would move down here to overdue. And then you would be able to use the 3 sliders. You could filter here and say, oh, shoot, give me all my overdue tasks. I need to do those or something along those lines. You'd have the ability to quickly find those. So then I'll go back here to my own record. I'll click view on all students. It takes me back. It saves my previous search, which is handy. So then I can just click on my own record again. And now you can see that alert here that I just created. Again, it floats to the top. It's 5 minutes newer than this one, so it goes to the top. Missy will go over in a bit more detail. This will happen the same way if faculty submit an alert. Faculty have the ability to either submit alerts for students through the Student Success Center, the way we just did, or they have a specific faculty alert community, which is kind of like a really pared down version of this. They can log in, it will show the students with their currently enrolled rosters. They pick the class, they pick the student, submit an alert or a kudo, and it'll just feed right into the Student Success Center. They don't have as many steps if they decide to do it that way. But it has the same effect. You would see it the same way here, created by that particular user. So you could see exactly who's submitting it and why. And on that same vein, the third option that we have, probably the most powerful option we have, is the referral. So if you're meeting with a student and you're like, no, I really think you should probably go to the Learning Success Center or something along those lines, we go see student services. If there's any other service center on campus that you want to refer the student to and have them take advantage of that, then you would set up a referral for them. This gives the advantage of you can notify the other staff member to whom you're referring the student. And then you can kind of keep up on that communication and make sure the student's actually doing what you're asking them to do.
Eric, before you go on.
Yes.
I'm looking at Lisa's, instead of being up and down, hers is across. Is that lightning versus not lightning format? Or
The Student Success Center should look the same regardless of the interface you're using.
let's see how she's.
Oh.
That versus.
First up is side to side because I'm zoomed in 50,000%. It's automatically resizing my blocks here. Yeah. Yes.
If I refer to, let's say Thrive, and the student goes to Thrive, can Mary then close the test for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the powerful yet dangerous abilities we have is the ability to edit these records regardless of whether or not we're the one that created them. So advisor link, you put in a note, that's the note. It's there forever until you ask IT to fix it or something like that. When you're making a referral for someone or you're looking at one of these alerts, if I click in here on this arrow, I can click this pencil here and I can edit the values that are on that record.
But we're not gonna do that, are we?
But you're not gonna do that. And if you do, we will know because we track the change history on all of these values. So if anyone changes the information, we'll know who did it when. Yes.
Hi, Eric, you mentioned that we have the ability to change the menu at the top, the academic engagement, financial, and you guys will be talking that over. Does that have to be a college-wide adjustment or for these specific users?
Where exactly? I'm sorry.
At the search where you can see all students.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, academic engagement, that have to be a college-wide adjustment? It could be.
So those three columns that you see there, those are like built into the product by the vendor. So one of the things we're gonna talk about is,
Okay.
if we're not using those, can we get rid of them? Right now, we can't, they're just there by default.
Okay.
So they're just taking up valuable real estate on that view.
And then one other quick question is that. Can you certify like things like attribute codes or anything like that?
Not directly in the success center, but that will come later when we start talking about reporting options.
Thank you, I'll wait.
Yeah, so I don't think that would be part of the success. You wouldn't do it that way through the success center. Yeah,
There are
Yeah,
a lot of filtering options.
right. If you're looking to grab like a giant, not a giant, but a list of students, like all the students in a particular program.
Yep.
That would be done somewhere else, and we'll talk about that functionality a little later. This is just meant to kind of be analogous to the advisor link system that we have now with the enhanced communication functionality and such. So. Back to the referral. So if I'm gonna set a referral to myself, I'm gonna say, okay, it's an academic referral. I wanna refer them to. Everyone loves going to Thrive, so we're gonna refer to Thrive. And one of the things another thing we're gonna talk about with the vendor is, in order for the communication to go out successfully, you have to indicate a specific staff member. So if you click staff, you're gonna get a giant list of people that we have designated as staff members, and it doesn't tell you anything else about them. It doesn't tell you where they work, what their number is, what they do, what their title is. So that's an issue that we're aware of. If you know specifically who you want to refer the student to, like if I wanted to do career services and I know it's Kyle, I can pick Kyle on the list. And then when the notification goes out, it'll go to whatever email is on Kyle's record.
Even though the service center says Thrive.
Even though the service center says Thrive, again, this is something we're going to talk about with the vendor. It does not filter out the staff list because the staff is not necessarily associated with the service center. The staff record is just a staff record. So that's something we're gonna have to talk to them about. But for now, just be aware that if you wanted to send out a referral, you need to make sure you specify a specific staff member if you want the system to automatically notify them. There's nothing that says you can leave the staff member blank, create a referral, and then ping them on Teams, be like, hey, I just referred this student over to you. Because this will still create an advising record within the Success Center, which you can then close and do all the edits to later. But in order for the system to automatically notify that person, you have to specify them as a user here.
Eric, you said, it notified the email on file, if someone ends up updating the system for, I don't know, big money, we get married, the last time changes. Will this automatically update?
So any changes to the student record in Banner should be picked up by the data integration and flow up into Salesforce. So we're not doing any direct staff data entry or anything like that within Salesforce. All that's still going to be handled through Banner.
Cool.
Is, are the referral tasks, well, is that by permissions? I'm just looking at these, and when I click on referrals, it doesn't pop anything on her, but I can click on.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Referrals a little strange in that regard. It requires an extra permission, and apparently that's not part of the permission set we set up. So.
That's why we do these.
Sonia, can you add engage admin to Lisa Social?
So I'm still having trouble.
We still
with
have, okay.
the Other ones, but.
All right. So I'll try and wrap it up pretty quick here. I think we're pretty close to being done with this, and then we'll talk about some more practical things in a bit. Let's say I wanted to notify. Sarah, you got your email open, Sarah Batiste? Batiste. I'm gonna refer someone, I'm gonna refer myself to you and we'll see what happens. So false me for please. Like that,
Eric needs lots of help. Sarah.
Yes, exactly.
Beyond help, Sarah.
just like that. So then when I click save. I can do a new referral. I can create the follow-up task the same way. So if I wanted to create a task for myself to follow up in a week, I can do it from here. And then with the email options, similar to the notes, I click that, I wait a few seconds, it'll pop up. I want to notify the staff. And I don't know why it doesn't default to the same one. Technically, I could notify whoever the heck I want. Even though it's a referral for Sarah Batiste, but I'm going to go down here. I'm going to pick her name again. And then I need to pick an email template. So I'm going to just use this one, which is student referral notification. And do that. And then in a few minutes, Sarah should get an email alert that a student has been referred to her.
Is she on the referrals? Yeah, just.
It just came in? Fantastic. Great. So it's not so much that when you create the referral and you assign it to a staff member, it's afterwards in the email options where you designate who you want to actually notify about that referral.
Say that one more time. Because I think you just answered my question.
Oh, okay. So when you create a referral, you set a service center and a staff member.
Yeah.
And then you save it, and then you're given the option to send out an email notification. The email notification can go to anyone you want. It's not related to the staff member and service center that you sent in the initial referral, even though it probably is.
Okay.
So you basically just have to pick that same staff member twice.
So the system doesn't automatically send a referral to Sarah, I have to notify her
If
with
you,
the email.
correct, and when you do, if you do not do this email.
Yeah.
Here, it will not.
Okay.
It might it would notify the primary advisor. If a new alert was created or something like that automatically, but the referral, it has to go through this email option. And the reason it does that is because you can pick different email templates. So you have an option to kind of customize the message that goes out. You also have the ability to notify the student in this case as well. If you want to give them a different template as well, so they'll get all that same information.
And you can notify multiple people or.
I believe this is set up to only allow one staff member and the student. So I can notify staff, I can notify the student. I don't believe I have the email option again after the fact, once I close out of this.
Well, that's a good question.
That is a very good question, yes. This is all stuff that we're gonna have to go back to TargetX about. But the basic functionality is there. You can create a referral for someone, you can designate the staff member, you can send the email out to them, they will get notified immediately. If the student visits that particular staff member, they can then go to that same referral note, they can close it for you. You don't have to check in on the student. If the other staff member closes the referral for you. We won't worry so much about action plan items right now. But the accolades and kudos, again, that's very simple. You pick a category, and these are the reasons that we've built in already for reasons that you may want to give a student a kudo. So you can do that. You're cool.
I hope that was me.
To
himself.
It's my daily affirmation. So then I would save that, and then kudo, I believe kudos will automatically notify the student. So if I check my email, I should feel better about myself.
Eric, one last question.
Yes.
If somebody closed out a note, is there a history? Will Salesforce keep a
Yes,
history?
so there will be, yeah, we are tracking the field changes on all of those.
Okay,
So you'll be able to see so-and-so change status from open to closed
okay.
on this date. So you should see the exact user that's performing all of the actions. Yep. And kind of procedurally, the last thing here, we have like communications. Communications give you the ability to do different types of subjects, and they give you a due date. So it's kind of like a communication is a note and a task kind of built into one. I think Sarah will go over in a little more detail how we actually use that as opposed to just an advising note to indicate that you met with a student. It's just kind of another variety along the same way. So and a communication to a student allows you to do call, meeting, or other. You can set a subject. It sets a due date and a status similar to a task and a priority similar to a task. So it's kind of like a note and a task built into one. So as we find use cases for these different types of objects, alerts and notes and referrals and accolades, those are all pretty obvious communications, a little more fungible in my opinion. And then tasks, finally, at the very end here, it's basically the same thing as a communication. You can see it here, except it just doesn't have, it even has the same type, like it has all the same fields you can put in here. So it basically kind of does the same thing. Again, these are tasks this is a task that you're assigning to yourself related to the student you are looking at. And that would be the same thing with a communication. It creates a task assigned to you related to a student, and it has all the same information. So we have that option if we need it, but more often than not, you're going to be doing notes, alerts, referrals, and accolades, kudos. Okay. So that goes over the different types. We've got we were looking at the activity here. Some just basic use functionality. If you click dashboard at the bottom left, it'll take you back here to the main page. You can start over. If you click students here at the bottom, it'll take you to that students view where you can toggle between all of my students. I'm not sure how valuable timeline is. Timeline will show you a history of activity. You probably don't want to look at all students because this is going to get very useless very quickly. When you look at timeline, it's going to show you multiple students with a history of their activities here. How useful that is, I don't know. But
That'd be really
perhaps
helpful
if
if we're like trying to find like who a student has met with or.
yeah,
direct them.
but be aware that this, like, if I set this timeline like I have it here to all, it's going to show me the activity history for the, you know, the 17,000 students that we have in the Success Center. So it's not, you'll probably want to limit it to just my students for it to be event use at all, really. If I click events, it's gonna take me outside of the Student Success Center for just a moment, and it's gonna look at the overall organization calendar. So right now we have our events set up for recruitment. We have our tours and FAFSA Friday and all these information sessions. Going forward, we'll be able to start populating this with retention events. So career fairs, advising assignments. We're going to be putting the Collaborative Learning Center tutoring options here. And students will be able to sign up for these. If I click on these events, I can then see who's actually signed up for these particular items. I can click on it here. It'll show an event list. If I scroll down to the bottom, I can see the people that are signed up for that particular event. So that lets you keep track of it that way, and then we'll expand out that functionality in the future. And then again, we're not using the appointment scheduler system. If you were, it would look like this. So this is my Outlook calendar. Obviously, this is no good. So that's that.